Hey everyone, thanks for joining me yet again for another episode. This of course is episode 4 of a multi-part series where you and I work together to carve a lighthouse out of an old piece of bark. If you haven't had a chance to view my previous videos, check them out as they have plenty of information that you may find interesting. In this video we are focusing on some of the details that up until now we've been avoiding. First things first, we want to draw the areas where we want to carve to guide us where we plan on cutting, and after that it's time to sharpen our blade and get to it. If you recall in the first video, I drew out some rocks under the lighthouse, and I really want to continue with that idea. But before we can do that, we have to cut away that rough outer layer of the bark. Follow the lines that you've sketched into the bark before now. If you make mistakes or want to change some things, don't be afraid to try a different way or add something that you haven't considered before. Get creative. Remember, this is your creation and no one else's. I'm afraid in this video you're going to see a lot of puppies in the background. They're pretty good dogs, so I can't be too awful mad at them. But they want to have some face time, so we'll give them some. And also you're going to get to see a little bit of my wife as well. She decided to sit in and watch me on some of these parts. Apparently it's starting to get interesting. So here we're just continuing to cut away that rough part of the bark, trying to get down to that base layer for the rest of our carving so that we can continue with the detail work. If you remember at the beginning of this video, you saw me kind of draw in a new door. I'm not really happy with how large that door is that I had originally carved out in the previous videos, and so I'm trying to come up with a better way where the door is going to be a little bit better sized compared to the rest of the carving here. So also in this video we're going to try and develop the cylindrical shape a little bit better on this. So up until now it's kind of flared out at the center, been a little bit fat looking, so we want to try and slender it up, make it look a little bit more sleek here. So at this time during the carving, what I'm really focusing on is two things. Is number one, I'm trying to slim it up as we go, and so you'll see me really focus on that center part of the carving. And number two, I'm going to try and keep avoiding looking at the dogs and not cut myself, and I'm going to try and get the cylindrical shape around the bottom of the lighthouse a little bit better defined. And so that's kind of what you see right there, where I'm kind of chipping away at that edge, trying to sharpen that edge where it comes in up under that light. I want to take a second to comment on what I'm doing whenever I stand my carving up on the table. I'm just trying to get a judgment of how straight it is whenever I'm carving. I'm trying to keep mine relatively vertical. Some folks may want to do their lighthouse carving and have it leaning to the side or look kind of goofy looking or something, or dilapidated. That's really cool too. Again, this is your creation, so you can do it however you want, but for what I'm shooting for here, I'm going to try and keep it fairly straight and at least make it look somewhat realistic. Alright, so now we're going to look at trying to get a little bit more detail in the piece. Just like before, I'm going to use my V-tool to reestablish this door frame. As I mentioned before, I wasn't really happy with how huge I had made the original door frame, but again, it's better to make it bigger than it is to make it smaller, because you can't put wood back. So I'm just using my V-tool here. You may have a better way to do it, but this is just my favorite way. So as I establish that outer part, I'm just going to chip away the old door frame that I had in there, and then continue around the rest of it and try and even it out all along the length of the piece here. Alright, after we've reestablished our door frame that we want with the new size, and we've sort of sharpened that edge on the windowsill, I want to come up here to the light and try and give it a little bit of love. We haven't really spent much time with him, so I'm trying to get it straighter in line with the piece, the rest of the lighthouse. And I'm also wanting to thin it down a little bit, because what I'm seeing is that my light is sort of become a little bit fatter than what the rest of the lighthouse is, and well, that's not realistic at all. So that's what I'm working on here, as I try and just keep my center line in mind, and how it's going to level out, and try and be as vertical as possible. And I'm just slowly just chipping away and then realigning myself, and then chipping away and realigning myself. It's sort of takes a little bit of time, but it's definitely well worth it in the end whenever you take your time to get it detailed. So now what I'm doing is that I'm transitioning into trying to put in some stones here, and so you saw me kind of begin putting the outlines for them, and then I apparently was not happy with how the wood was, so I dug a little bit deeper into the wood to try and get into a little bit better wood here. Now I'm switching to my Drake detail knife. If you don't have a detail knife, you can always buy an X-Acto knife. I've seen folks use them as well, and actually at some point in time during these videos you'll see me use them as well. I've bought me a few just to try them out. But I'm reestablishing my rocks here. You'll definitely want to take a pencil and stencil in your different rocks that you want to create, because you don't want to do this freehand here without any kind of guidance. So this detail work, I'm going to come back in a later video and try and give you guys a little bit better view than what you see here on how to do this. But really how I do the rocks is that I'll after I've traced them out and everything, I'll just take my detail knife and I'll just run it in line with whatever trace that you have or stencil that you've got in there marked up. I'll just run it along. It doesn't have to be a sharp or a deep cut. It just got to be, you do have to be sharp, but it doesn't have to be a deep cut. And after you've sort of set one rock or carved out one rock, come back and run along the same line, come at a different angle, and just take a little wedge out of that rock. And what you'll see is you'll start to make them just separate just a little bit, all of your different rocks. And that separation is really what we're looking for. and we don't want to get a whole lot just yet. I found that it's a lot easier to just do a little bit at a time. See how you like how the rocks lay out. Sometimes you may want smaller rocks, sometimes you may want larger rocks. Some people like to have them in sort of like a brick format. Maybe when they built this lighthouse, they just built it on old round rocks. Maybe you want yours to be square rocks. That's fine too. It's completely up to you. But what I try to do is I'm trying to also blend my rocks in with the bark. It gives it a really cool look when those rocks just kind of grow out of the bark that we've left and all roughed up and everything. So you can get your rocks as tightly packed as you want or as loosely packed. I want mine to be kind of a little bit denser here, but again, you can do whatever you want. But by the time that we're done, we're going to make some really deep gouges in these rocks. We want to really make them pop out. But like I'd mentioned, just kind of keep them shallow for now. It's okay. We'll come back. We'll really define those here in a later episode. But as for now, as we try to clean up this little rough part around the catwalk of the light, we're going to start bringing this episode to a close. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. I know it's a little bit longer than I have done in the past, but I'm trying to get a little bit more information into a single video if possible, and I believe we have done that with this one. So give me a like, give me a subscribe. I hope to see you guys again tomorrow. Keep carving. Thank you. Bye.